So, Monday again, believe it or not, you know, these weeks have a habit of sort of turning around and replaying the same days over and over again. But so Monday, here we are. And lovely to have you all with us this morning. And I believe we're talking about love this morning, are we, Lee?
It's obviously scared quite a few people away. Don't want to get too up close and personal. We can talk about money, but oh, love, no. Yeah, shall I dive in and just sort of just give an idea of launching in? So I'm thinking about love in coming from different angles. On Friday, I spoke about my brother-in-law's brother being a cricket coach, who really said the bottom line in getting the best out of your team is to know that they love you, or that you love them, and he specifically used those words. They must know that you love them. And so I was thinking about it in the sports arena. It made me think about Rafael Nadal and many other professional sports people who are coached by family members, dads, uncles, and the bond, the relationship, obviously the expectations that come with that. And then I was also thinking about the place that we would like to experience love, and that's in our immediate family unit. I was watching Netflix, Edward. I was watching Netflix, a series called Shetland, which you maybe, so it's a great Scottish detective series that we've really been enjoying. And there's this chap who confessed to a murder because his mom was convinced that he had done it, and she told him to confess, and it was not true at all. He was completely innocent. And when the detective asked him, so why did you confess? He said, I always wanted my mother to love me. And so that was from a family perspective. And then I like Twitter, I hate to confess. And so I'll troll it every now and again. And the Deputy Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation here in South Africa, Mr. Buti Manamela, put this as his status on his Twitter feed on Friday. I want to tell everyone that I love you. I don't do it as often as I should, and often I leave it until it's too late. And I just thought, here is a politician, okay, maybe we can be cynical about it, but I thought it sounded sincere. It sounded like something that he'd really been thinking about. And I don't know who it's addressed to when you put it on Twitter. And of course, you get quite a few interesting responses like, we would love you too, comrade, particularly if you just double our salaries. And then others that go, huge respect, I hope that you and yours are well. So that I just thought the love comes in all different sizes, in all different contexts, but it means something. When somebody says, I love you, and actually if I go back to Shetland to end off my story, right at the end of the third series, the detective sits next to his daughter and he says, I love you. And she says, I know. And he says, yes, but I just wanted to give you an update. And we always need to hear those words. Or when we hear those words, they mean something. So I launch into our discussion along those lines, and would love to hear your thoughts about love, the meaning of love, And yeah, hand over to you.
Great, thanks, Lisa. I'm going to go to the person that I know loves everybody the most in this group, and that's Trevor. So let's go start with Trevor for a change instead of ending off with him.
Oh my goodness. Have you got things wrong, my friend? All right. I actually thought it was a very interesting topic. And I wrote down 3 words that I thought I should just throw up here. I won't throw it up literally. Okay. And for me, you talked of the sporting sort of connection. And we used to do the same in our day. Hey, love you for that and love you for this, but I came out of the hippie era, so love had a different meaning from those days. But when it came into the sporting days, it was love was another word for respect, and I think respect is so closely tied to the word love. That I think they intermingle. The other one was thinking back. It's sometimes difficult to recognize just how much you love until something or someone that you love is taken away from you. And then the expression of your love is in the depth of the tears and the depth of the sorrow. So tears has something in it. And I've noticed, you know, I like to think that I'm pretty hard, or I used to be, but, and there's Ivan laughing away, I have shed deep, deep, deep tears, which has gone back to the word love. Clearly, you wouldn't do it if you, if there was not meaning in that something or someone that you're shedding those tears for. And then the other thing is, I think love has something to do with personal sacrifice. And so I'm looking in my own life as you come through of being an individual that never would have got married, according to everyone else, that there was no way that this was going to get married until my wife forced me into it, because she threatened to leave me if I didn't make the commitment. It then became about personal sacrifice, because all the things that I was doing, I recognized then was all for me and driving for me. And then I had to start considering someone else. And then the kids came into it, and then you start considering them. So love for me went back to making certain that there was a cup of coffee next to my wife's bedside table every single morning. And I think next year that'll be for almost 40 years. Every single, now that's love.
Great, thanks, Jeff. So why isn't there a cup of coffee next to my bed every single morning?
No, I said that's love. I'm talking about that. I would check the arsenic and I wouldn't stir it in your operation.
Well, yeah. It's just as well, because I don't drink coffee anyway, so it's fine.
Oh,
right, so let's get across to someone else who loves to kick and chop people on a regular basis. Cecile, I'm just wondering how that fits into your sport. Cecile?
Sorry, let me just, my internet is coming and going, so let me just switch off and come back in.
All right.
Because I keep on dropping all the words. I don't know why, and I've just done a speed test and it's fine, but I'll just go out and in.
Okay, all right. Good. All right, Stella, let's get across to you then.
Morning, everyone. So, love. That's a very touchy and interesting topic, I think. So for me, Lee was saying we all want to hear the word "I love you." So I just want to share a little bit. I've known you guys now for a while, and we've shared a lot of intimate experiences with each other. So it was interesting when Lee said you wanted to hear love. And I was thinking, so what happened with my marriage? I'm still trying to deal with it. How can somebody, every night you go to bed and that person say, I love you, but then at the same time have extramural relationship? So to hear that words is, to me, doesn't mean anything. I think where Trevor came in, it's more actions. And it's taken me a long time to believe in love again, because I've met somebody that has told me he loves me, but it doesn't mean anything to me. So, sorry guys. Yeah, I think so. For me, love, actions talks louder than words.
Thanks, Stella. Yeah, I think it's tough to get over those hurts sometimes, and get your belief and your faith back in what people are telling you. So thanks for sharing that. Right, Edward, let's come across to you.
Yeah, when Lee mentioned it on Friday, I sort of spent the weekend thinking about the word love and the fact we use it a lot and we abuse it a lot, I think. And it's very strange because it has a throwaway meaning and a very deep meaning. When I moved down to Cornwall, I found it really strange because a old generation Cornish man would call you my lover. That's what they'll say. If you go in a shop to buy something, they'll say, there you go, my lover. And a woman of any age in Cornwall will call you my lovely. So it's got no meaning at all. It's, you know, almost pointless as a word. And then you think about your partner and you say you love them, and then the next minute you say you love pizza. Well, do you have a deep and meaningful relationship with a pizza? I do, but other people might not. And then I kind of thought about, well, the difference between how you love your partner and how you love your children. And I think when you love a partner, there is almost a contract. It's not necessarily you will love them forever. You know, if they go off with someone else, you stop loving them. Well, you might stop loving them, you might not stop loving them. But it is this two-way thing, and it can be broken. But when you love your children, it's unconditional. They can almost do anything and you'll still love them. I know a lady whose daughter, she's a drug addict, she steals, but she still loves her. And I think hopefully I'd still love my daughters. So it's got loads and loads and loads of different meanings. And it's interesting, my parents never told me they loved me, not once. And love was never a word we spoke about. But with my children, it's like Lee was saying about an update. When we have Facebook Messenger chats, at some point in time, we'll always say, I love you, even though we know. So yeah, that's my thoughts on love. It's a huge word, but it has a bit like the sort of the Inuit and snow. There are lots of different meanings of the word love, and they have lots of different words to describe snow. So perhaps we need more words to describe love.
Yeah, thanks, Edward. Yeah, I think it is interesting, isn't it? How and you probably find that in different cultures it means different things as well. So yeah, it becomes very interesting. So Solomon, you've got someone with you this morning. Would you like to introduce her and give us your thoughts on the subject?
Yes, this is my wife, guys. Arika. I don't know if she wants to say hi. You want to say hi quickly?
Hello, everyone. My name is Arika, and I'm glad to be here.
We're glad to have you here.
Yeah, so to be honest with you, I'm standing in a space where I'm unable to define the word love without looking the Bible, when I see how, you know, I get through one particular scripture, I think it's Romans 5 or something, it says that while we all have sinned, Christ actually gave his life for us. So that means you and I, we were loved when we have turned our back against God. So that's very interesting that when you think from a biblical point of view, that we actually are loved without doing anything. So that's very interesting. And then when you go to Corinthians as well, it just says, you know, if you are able to do miracles, are able to jump the mountains, able to, but you don't have love, like you're like a gong that's making so much noise. So that's very interesting. And then for me, I think I get challenged a lot by the definition of the love. Where do we really get that definition? But I know in the Bible, it just says love, it's kind. Love, it's not rude. It's not boastful. So it's a kind of very challenging a topic to discuss all over, just because where do you really get the definition thereof? Because everybody else then, like everybody that's been speaking right now, everybody else then defines it a little bit different. So for me, I think I'll always try to draw back from what the Bible is saying about love, because that actually has breathed into my own life. So if I copy that, then I feel like I'm doing something better, rather than going to other definitions, because then I'm in big trouble, because our own hearts on their own, without others nudging us up, we are really in trouble to really love anyway. So yeah, that's my comment.
Great, thanks, Solomon. Ulrika, do you want to add any thoughts in on that?
Wow. Yeah, I agree with Solomon. And I think another thing that just came, especially when Edward was speaking about family, is that you get an opportunity to really love from home, you know, especially with your spouse and then with your children. Because your children really, when they grow up, when they think love, they think back of home, you know, how did I experience love from home? And yes, sometimes they might not see it as love, because, you know, for them, love should be yes, yes, yes. But, you know, as parents, we're learning that actually some big love is to say no. And, you know, we keep telling that to our children. We have 2 boys. Our oldest is 16 recently. And we keep telling him, you have 2 more years. Take advantage of these lessons that you are getting, because then mom and dad won't be around anymore, you know. And I'm sure it's getting through, you know. So, yeah, I thank God for the ability to receive love from him, and to be able to share it with each other and just make that impact on our children's lives. That, you know, when they grow up one day, they'll say, yeah, I know what love is because I saw it at home. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ulrika. Yes, but let's get across to you.
Thanks for leaving me for this time, because then I can catch up with all the input from all the other people. And I think, Solomon, you've also triggered me there. So we've got a new preacher in the room. Solomon, thank you. But I think, and I saw in the chat room, Lee touched on it. What came up with me is how easy it is to miscommunicate a love because of the different love languages. So one person is not verbal in what in his expression of love, but he shows it through acts of service, or another person through acts of gifts. So other people, their love language is to listen and pay attention to you. So there's a book out on that. I read it through very briefly, so I'll just pick up some of these words here and there. But I can recommend that because I can see how we don't understand each other's love language. We can easily miscommunicate, and then we don't feel loved because the person is not treating me in the way that I need to feel loved. I think there's also this thing of it's a personal sense. So you need to feel loved. So if you feel loved, it's easy. Life is easy. It's a breeze, and that need to belong. And you know, in addition to Solomon's reference to the Bible, it's this. By the time that Jesus came to earth, he gave Moses 10 commandments. By the time he came to earth in the physical form, they then took those 10 commandments and added twists and tails to it. So it became hundreds. I believe by that time it was something like 1,000, approaching 1,000 so-called Mosaic laws that man added to the whole thing. And they tried to trip Jesus up on this book, and they asked him, and which of these laws are the most important? And he then summarized it for them. And he said, all of these laws can be summarized in the following: love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. And that's what I wanted to add here. I think there's where the problem is. If we don't have a self-love, and I'm not talking narcissistic self-love, but we have a good identity and we feel good about ourselves, very difficult then to relate to other people and to our neighbor. And if I just listen to many of our stories, and the heroes are here in front of me in the board, how they overcame that initial feeling of I'm not worthy, because they had that sort of input in their lives from parents and peers. And then they found the place where they say, you know what, God loves me, therefore I can love myself, therefore I start loving other people. So for me, the pivot of this whole thing is, to what extent do you feel comfortable in your own skin? To what extent do you have a strong identity? To what extent do you feel you make a difference and that your life counts? And then once that is in place, it's easy to start expressing love in whatever language you want to express it.
Great, thanks, Jasper. Cecile, let's get to you.
Okay, number one, Darcel's the CD thing on the love languages, and it's very interesting. It also comes in a book. But what I wanted to say is, when I grew up in an Afrikaans family where my dad was the oldest of 9 children, and he, in the Afrikaans family, and they weren't very demonstrative when it comes to love, because men don't have. I mean, he's only got 2 sisters, and all the others are men. Men don't hug each other. Men don't show each other affection in public. That kind of stuff. So, although my dad was a loving dad, he didn't often say that he, in so many words, that he loved any of us. But he was demonstrating his love in other ways apart from hugging and touching. And then in 1984, when I was 24 years old, Andre and I moved to King David, a Jewish school. And before that, I didn't know Jews really from Bloemfontein. If they were Jewish, they never said that they were Jewish. But in living in a Jewish school, we moved in there in March at the end of the first term. And we stayed in the hostel. And I stood in the hostel there, and I looked down on the playground, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Boys and boys were meeting each other and hugging each other, and boys and girls, and they were also demonstrative and loving and seeing each other. And I thought, phew, that was weird. Where did I let myself in for? But interestingly enough, it rubs off on one. It wasn't 3 months, and I was a hugging, loving person. I was hugging the kids in the hostel. They loved it. They all came from the platteland, so we became their surrogate parents, and they would always come to us for a hug and whatever. And I started hugging my family. My dad at first was like very stiff when you hug him in public, but then it became something that our family did, and we hugged each other. It doesn't matter whether it's men or the boys and their dad, or any of the men hugged. And then when my children grew up, I was a pretty much demonstrative, loving type mom. And even, you know, when teenagers become, I don't know, 13, 14, they don't want their mothers to hug them in front of their friends. But Ruben had no problem whatsoever. He would play first team rugby, and he would say stand there to run on the field, and he would see me on the side of the field, and he would run to me and hug me in front of all the people, and that was no problem to him at all. So I think I'm more than other people, probably a huggy person, which is very difficult for, and now in this times, not to hug people, to kind of bump them. But yeah, Stella, I agree with you. It can become so easy to just say to someone, I love you, and then be unkind to them, or in other ways deceitful to them behind their backs. So I think it is, yeah, it is just something that we need to become comfortable with, to say it. And I think hopefully our generation, and I think most people on this group, are quite good at saying that to their children, because I read that's one of the things that children need to hear kind of daily, that you love them and that you value them and that they're good and stuff like that. But love is good, and it's maybe a good idea to find out the love language so that you know how to communicate with the other people in your family. That's my thoughts.
Great, thanks, Cecile. Donovan, are you with us? I see you've been struggling a bit with your connection. Donovan? Perhaps not. Mpulela, there we go. Are you with us, Donovan?
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Yeah, just apologies for my connection. I actually sent a chat about love, about the topic. So love is a doing word. You know, people can see you really care for them or love them by what you do and how you treat them. So it's important the way you behave around others. You really want to reach out to them and you know, gain from them, from your relationship with them. Thank you.
Thanks, Donovan. Mpulelo, let's come across to you.
Yeah, sure. Talking about love, it's one topic I can speak for days on end on, but I had to work very hard to say, how do I summarize it? But I guess let me start with how I define love, and I will then go a little bit into that definition. I usually define love in this way. Love is not a feeling, or love is not just a feeling, but it is character in action. So going a little bit into that definition is that feelings are not a complete part of a human being, right? But your character is everything. Secondly, is that feelings can come and go. Not everybody wakes up every morning feeling like doing something. But character is consistent, and character is more solid. And so for me, that's why I'm saying love is not just a feeling, but it's character in action. And to Donovan's words as well, it is a doing word, which is to say, it's impossible to love but not act out of it, although it is possible to act without love. That's why the Bible says, if you do things but love is not the motive, you're a noisy gong. Why do I define it as a character? Again, for me, it goes to a biblical explanation of love. If you look at all the words that I use, love is patient, love is kind, it does not seek of its own. That's not a description of a feeling, that's a description of a character. Because character says, I will be kind, not because situation is good for kindness. I will be kind because I'm a kind person in general, whether situations are favorable or not. So that's why I define it as a character, to say, so for me, it says for one to love very well, you have to build in you a character trait of love, so that you can act out of love in everything that you do, not because you feel like it. It's not every morning that I wake up and I feel like, ooh, my wife is so great, but I make a decision in my heart that I will work on a loving character in me, so that every time I act out of that. I act out of kindness. I act out of patience. And therefore it also says to me, to love, you have to work on your character continuously and all the time, because it is possible to move from a good character to a bad character. And so you have to take everyday energy and work on one's character to always be acting out of love, to always be acting out of kindness, even when life is not kind, but you learn to act out of kindness anyway. And that's why for me, love becomes a much more deeper, much more demanding, much more sacrificial, much more deeper thing, because it calls out of a character of a person and who they are, not just how they feel. I think let me leave it for there for now. I'm getting too excited and I think I can go on forever, because there are many, many, many things that I can speak about when it comes to love. In actual fact, it is a topic that I speak to about with a lot of couples, ladies, men out there. But again, love is not just a feeling, but character in action.
Great, thanks, Mpulelo. Some great thoughts and insights there. And yeah, I can hear you passionate about the subject, and you clearly love it. So let's right. So let's go across to the lovely Nozipo to finish off the morning for us. Nozipo, are you with us?
I am. Thank you. Thanks. I think for me, love is very closely tied to forgiveness as well. You know, there's, I think it's in the Bible where it says love, you know, looks over a multitude of sins, forgives a multitude of sins. And so I'm always left puzzled when someone has wronged another person, and this is particularly in love relationships. I'll get into other love settings later. When somebody has wronged another person and then, you know, they're not able to forgive that person and yet they love that person, I can never reconcile that. I can't. And you know, I'm not excluding myself from that as well, because I also have been through situations where I've been wronged and I've thought that's it. And then at a later stage, I always ask myself, isn't this the type of things that love is supposed to cover? I don't know. Now, one of the things that changed my perceptions where love is concerned was, I don't know if any of you listened to that sermon on at the Royal Wording. It must have been the most powerful thing that was said about love for me. Like from that day on, I took a totally different stance on love, because what, I don't even know who the pastor was, but what he was saying was talking about how one of the greatest discoveries in human history was the discovery of fire. He said when men discovered how to harness fire, you know, a lot of scientific discoveries came out of that. Fire made human civilizations possible, or something to that effect, and that a lot of advances were dependent on the humans' ability to take fire and use it for the greater good of humans. And what was powerful for me is he went on and said, when humans learn and capture the energy, to capture and harness the energy of love, that would be the second time in history that men would have discovered fire. And from then on, I started looking at love as this, for me now, there's nothing love can do. Like, I see love as the answer in absolutely anything. I've seen how humans behave. I've seen how the wildest of humans and even animals tame when they poured love, when you just pour love onto them. And I like every day I try to see how else can, you know, I personally harness the energy of love and to see what love can do and to see the power that is in love. And for me, love is just, it's the answer. It's a huge thing. I don't think there's anything bigger than love. That's that aspires our goal. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Nzipo. Yeah, I think true love creates real connections, doesn't it? So thank you for that. All right, we've gone past the bottom of the hour, and as we can see, this subject could roll out into some extended sessions with some of the passion and love that is coming out of it all. But I think we need to wrap up for today. So Lee, over to you, just to wrap up and tell us what we're going to chat about tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Such great thoughts, and it just you know, keeps the juices flowing. And there are many topics that we could pull out of this. I was thinking about character, about identity, about now what Nzipo's just said in terms of harnessing the power of love. And so I'm actually going to put all of those on hold for a moment, so that we can mull over them, and then we'll pull them through at other times of the week. Trevor's asked, and it's going to take us in a different direction, but it's good for us to kind of maybe change direction every now and again, just to you know, keep us on track, and not only, but sort of keep stimulating new thoughts and different ideas. And the question is around, how is COVID currently affecting your life? And how do you see it affecting your life going into the future? And not only your life, how do you see that there's going to be an impact? Is there going to be an ongoing ripple effect from this pandemic that the world is experiencing? I mean, there's no doubt that we're living through a global event that will be marked in history forever. I'm guessing, so the question therefore is, what are the ramifications? Is this a jolt to our entire world that is going to change things as we know it in forever? And how do you see that? So yeah, you might have thought about it, you might have heard about, you know, got ideas. Let's share them. Let's see. I'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas around this. So if we can share that tomorrow.
Thanks, Lee. Thanks, everyone. Stay well and have a great day, and we'll see you in the morning. Have a good one. Cheers.